As the plane carrying my unfaithful wife to Europe ascended into the sky, I set my plan into motion. By the time she returned, the life we had built together would be nothing but ashes. I cleared out our bank accounts, packed up her belongings, erased every memory we had shared, and even put her house up for sale. But that was just the beginning. What awaited her on her return was far worse, a nightmare she could never have imagined. To the outside world, Eliza and I were the perfect couple. Married for 8 years, we had built a life envied by many. A stunning villa in the Swiss countryside, thriving careers, and shared investments. She was a luxury hospitality executive, and I ran a successful financial consulting firm. Together, we were the epitome of a power couple, untouchable and prosperous. But beneath that flawless veneer, cracks had begun to show. A few months ago, the late-night phone calls, whispered conversations, and growing distance between us became impossible to ignore. "Work has been stressful," she would say with a forced smile, brushing off my concerns. I wanted to believe her, clinging desperately to the illusion of our perfect life. But one careless mistake shattered that illusion entirely. One evening, she left her phone on the kitchen counter, unlocked. A single message lit up the screen. "I can't wait to see you in Paris. Counting down the days, my love." I froze, my heart pounding as I stared at the words. Unable to stop myself, I scrolled through the conversation. The messages revealed a sordid affair with a man named Victor, a French luxury hotel magnate. They had been meeting for years, under the guise of business trips, indulging in romantic escapades across Europe. The realization hit like a dagger to the chest, each text unraveling the truth behind her distant smiles and missed dinners. I didn't confront her immediately. Instead, I began quietly collecting evidence, photos of them together, receipts for lavish gifts, even a detailed itinerary of their upcoming trip to Paris. I needed to understand the full extent of her betrayal before enacting my revenge. When she announced another business trip, I played along. "Of course, darling," I said with a smile. "You've been working so hard. You deserve a break." Little did she know this trip would be her last with Victor. The moment she left for the airport, suitcase in hand and phone buzzing with Victor's messages, I began executing my plan. The first step was financial. I transferred every cent from our joint accounts into an offshore account in my name. I left just enough in her personal account to maintain appearances during her trip. Next, I packed up all her belongings, clothes, jewelry, photos, and stored them in a rented storage unit far from our home. By the time I finished, the villa was barren, a lifeless shell of the life we once shared. Then, I contacted a real estate agent and listed the house for sale. Viewings were scheduled to begin immediately. Eliza's betrayal had destroyed the foundation of our marriage. Now, I would destroy everything she thought was secure. When her plane landed in Switzerland, she texted me cheerfully, "Can't wait to see you." I didn't respond. At the airport, she walked out of the arrivals gate arm in arm with Victor, their laughter echoing through the terminal. Her smile faltered as 2 men in dark suits approached them. "Eliza and Victor, you'll need to come with us," one of them said, flashing a badge. Panic overtook her face as they were escorted away, their protests drowned out by the bustling crowd. Watching from a discreet distance, I allowed myself a smirk. The nightmare was just beginning. In a stark, windowless room deep within the airport, Eliza and Victor were seated at a steel table. The 2 men who had intercepted them stood silently by the door, their expressions unreadable. "What is this? We've done nothing wrong," Victor protested, his voice betraying his growing fear. One of the men placed a thick file on the table, flipping it open to reveal damning photographs, financial documents, and transcripts of their private messages. "This," the man said coldly, "is the truth." The room grew oppressively silent as the weight of their actions and the consequences came crashing down on them. Their lives, like mine, would never be the same again. "Mistaken, Mr. Dubois," the man said coldly, his tone sharp as a blade. "We have plenty of evidence to the contrary." The file on the table was opened, revealing a damning collection of documents, bank transfers, illicit business deals, and incriminating correspondence. Eliza's name was scattered throughout, unmistakably tying her to the transactions. "What is this?" "I don't understand," Eliza stammered, her voice trembling. The man leaned forward, a smirk playing on his lips. "It seems your romantic escapades have been funding some rather questionable activities. Fraudulent deals, tax evasion, and, oh yes, money laundering." He slid a photograph across the table. It showed Victor and Eliza laughing over champagne in Paris, the caption reading, "Expenses charged to joint accounts." Victor's face turned ashen, his lips moving silently as if searching for words that wouldn't come. Eliza's breath quickened, the weight of the situation bearing down on her. Meanwhile, I sat comfortably in my rented suite, watching the scene unfold via a hidden live feed. The men confronting Eliza and Victor weren't authorities. They were actors, carefully hired to play their parts in this elaborate charade. This was my creation, a symphony of fear and betrayal. The documents were forgeries, but expertly crafted to convince. My goal wasn't to involve the law. It was to unearth the fragility of their trust and make them experience the terror I had endured when I discovered their betrayal. The crescendo came when one of the men asked, "Who orchestrated this? Who tipped us off?" Eliza and Victor exchanged panicked glances. "I don't know," Eliza cried, her voice breaking. "This has to be a mistake." The man's smile turned icy. "Then why is your husband's name tied to these accounts? Why did we find evidence in your villa?" Eliza's face crumpled at the mention of me, the man she had so easily discarded. The room fell into a suffocating silence. Hours later, Eliza emerged from the airport. Her disheveled appearance and tear-streaked face betrayed the chaos she had endured. Victor trailed behind her, silent and brooding. They were broken, their once glamorous facade shattered. When Eliza arrived at the villa, she froze in her tracks. The front lawn was crowded with potential buyers, their curious gazes appraising the property. A large for sale sign loomed in the driveway like a cruel taunt. She rushed inside, only to find the house barren. Every trace of her belongings was gone, replaced by cold, echoing walls. Panic surged as she grabbed her phone and dialed my number. "James, what's happening? Where are you?" she pleaded, her voice desperate. I answered calmly. "You made your choices, Eliza. This is the result. Please, I can explain," she cried. I cut her off. "Explain what? The years of lies? The affair? Or the fact that you thought I wouldn't find out?" My voice hardened. "The house is sold. The accounts are empty. This is my final goodbye." Before she could respond, I ended the call and blocked her number, leaving her in the emptiness she had created. Days later, their lives unraveled further. The forged documents from the charade resurfaced in unexpected places. Anonymous emails reached Victor's business partners, sowing doubt and mistrust. His once pristine reputation was now tarnished beyond repair. Eliza, now jobless and penniless, found herself ostracized by colleagues and friends who once admired her. Whispers of her betrayal and Victor's shady dealings spread like wildfire, leaving them isolated and disgraced. The final blow arrived in the form of a parcel delivered to Victor's new address. Inside was a photo album of memories of Eliza and me, accompanied by a simple note. "You took her. Now you take the burden." From my small coastal retreat in Italy, I watched their downfall from afar. The villa sold quickly, and I moved on, choosing peace over the wreckage of the past. Standing on the balcony of my new home, watching the waves crash against the shore, I smiled for the first time in years. Letting go wasn't just my revenge, it was my freedom. Sometimes, the greatest triumph lies in simply walking away.